100 years ago, a German architect had a really wild idea. He wanted to literally empty the entire ocean. This was the craziest plan ever for big construction projects, even more than the pyramids of Giza or the Panama Canal. But why did he want to do this, and could it have actually worked? To get the whole picture, let's go back to the 19th century when many Europeans, especially in Germany, were talking about something called Lebensraum. In English, Lebensraum just means living space, and it's a pretty simple concept. As more people live in a country, they need more space. In the 1920s, Adolf Hitler thought about this and believed that as Germany became stronger, it would need more room to live. Other Europeans had similar thoughts because there were too many people in Europe and not enough space. It was like crowded balloons in a small room, and many people thought it would lead to problems. There were also concerns about energy needs. As more people lived, they needed more energy like coal and oil. This made these materials super important. It seemed like a war for space in Europe was bound to happen. Growing countries wanted land and stuff, and it looked like they had no choice but to fight for it. However, in the 1920s, a German named Herman Sörgel had a unique idea. He thought about things differently and came up with an amazing plan called Atlantropa. This name came from combining Atlantic and Europa and was supposed to make people think of Atlantis, the mythical underwater city. Sörgel, who dreamt of doing something pretty wild, wanted to empty the huge Mediterranean Sea so that Europeans could have more land without fighting wars. The Mediterranean is way bigger than modern Germany, like 8 times bigger. Sörgel thought we could turn the emptied sea into cool new lands for people to settle and grow stuff. It's like making a big empty space where there wasn't one before. Imagine a world filled with charming towns and bustling cities, where everyone can live peacefully without the constant concern of space running out, and the Mediterranean no longer poses a barrier, making it simpler for people to journey from Europe to Africa. This newfound accessibility not only fosters increased travel, but also presents an opportunity for individuals from Europe to relocate to Africa. Just envision the prospect of constructing fresh cities and homes, expanded living spaces, in a seamless and interconnected network of communities. In this vision, the possibilities for harmonious living and growth seem boundless. Sörgel's idea was sparked by a genuine geological happening. The Mediterranean has an intriguing trait. Water evaporates from its surface more rapidly than it gets replenished by rivers. The sea level remains stable primarily because of the Atlantic Ocean entering through the Strait of Gibraltar. However, around 5 million years ago, tectonic plates movement sealed off the Strait of Gibraltar. Consequently, the Mediterranean became isolated, lacking the influx of Atlantic waters. This led to a gradual reduction in its size, exposing extensive areas of land as the water level dropped by hundreds of meters. Many years after that, the Strait of Gibraltar opened up once more, and a huge flood of water from the Atlantic Ocean filled up the Mediterranean basin again. But for a little while before that, the Mediterranean had become a really small sea, and the overall land area of Europe got way bigger. And Sörgel, who wanted to bring back that whole scenario, realized waiting for the Earth's tectonic plates to do their thing again wasn't really an option. Instead of going with the usual plans, he decided to explore civil engineering. This led to what is now known as Sörgel's audacious vision. His grand proposal involved constructing a dam across the Strait of Gibraltar, essentially creating a human-made barrier where nature had made a tectonic closure. However, this endeavor posed significant challenges. Imagine the strait's deepest point, plunging 900 meters into the sea. Even in shallower areas, the distance from the water's surface to the seabed measured a daunting 300 meters. At that time, no dam had ever reached such heights, and even today, only a handful have surpassed that remarkable 300-meter mark. In China, there are 2 big dams called the Jinping Eye and the Nurik, but there's more to building these dams than just dealing with the depth of the water. Sörgel faced another challenge, the strait's width. At its narrowest, the water stretches 13 kilometers from one side to the other. So Sörgel has to figure out how to manage both the depth and the width to make these dams work. The Jinping I and the Nurek Dam only cover a distance of 600 and 700 meters, respectively. Now, think about this dam that Herman Sörgel envisioned for the Strait of Gibraltar. It wouldn't just need to be much taller than any dam we've ever seen before. It would have to stretch 20 times longer from one end to the other. Atlantropa, as it was called, aimed to do even more. Sörgel dreamed of damming the Atlantic and then moving onto the Dardanelles Strait, with the goal of separating the Mediterranean from the Black Sea. While the latter was somewhat less challenging than the Gibraltar Strait Dam, it still would have spanned over a kilometer. It's pretty clear that Sörgel's ideas were quite ambitious. Sörgel had big plans for these huge dams. First, he wanted to block off the Mediterranean so the water level could go down. But that wasn't all. He also dreamed of putting another dam between Sicily and Tunisia, splitting the sea into two parts. This plan was even more ambitious because it meant building a dam over a distance of more than 150 kilometers. Sörgel aimed to make the water level drop differently in the western and eastern halves, 100 meters in the west and 200 meters in the east. It might sound complex, but he had calculated carefully based on the land's geography. The goal was to uncover about 700,000 square kilometers of land through these descending water levels. The plan was so massive it could fit two Germanys, but it wasn't just about space. Sörgel knew overpopulation could mess with Europe's power, so he came up with an idea: use superdams and Atlantropa as power stations. These would not only support cities in the area, but also provide electricity to other parts of Europe. In simpler terms, Sörgel aimed to transform the Mediterranean into a giant water-powered battery. Sörgel wrote lots of books about Atlantropa, and many people got excited about the idea of solving overpopulation peacefully. Some politicians even preferred spending money on Atlantropa instead of war. Architects and engineers improved on Sörgel's ideas, suggesting a plan to use a series of dams to block the Strait of Gibraltar like steps, holding back the Atlantic Ocean in smaller, safer sections. Inspired by a project in the Netherlands, where dams held back part of the North Sea, Sörgel thought his ambitious plan could work. He dreamed of connecting the entire European continent to a central power grid, preventing wars by turning off powers to countries in conflict. He also proposed canals in places like Italy and Egypt to adapt to changes in sea levels and ensure trade routes for cities like Venice and Cairo. Also, he had this big idea of connecting Europe and Africa to make a new place called Euro-Africa. He wanted to build a dam on the Congo River and make a big freshwater lake. This water could then be used to make the Sahara Desert into fertile land. He thought it would be useful for Europe. He planned to connect it all with railways, even ones over dams between places like Gibraltar, Sicily, and Tunisia. But not everyone liked these plans. Furthermore, Sörgel wanted to prevent a war in Europe, but he didn't care about the impact on African lives. Many criticized the Atlantropa project, fearing safety issues like dam collapse. The cost was huge, and getting all European countries to contribute was unlikely. Engineers doubted the feasibility of Sörgel's plans, and to date, no such dams have been built. Unfortunately, Sörgel never got to realize his dream, as he died in a car accident not long after the project faced criticism and opposition. Now it's over to you. What are your thoughts on Sörgel's grand plan? Could such a massive mega-project ever be built? Share your opinions in the comments section below, and don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe for more fascinating content, and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our upcoming explorations. Until next time, stay curious.